Today we're going to look at the extended essay in business management. I'm going to take the slightly unusual step of recommending to many of you not to do the business management EA. That's because many of you may only be choosing business management EA because you think, hey, business management is reasonably interesting, maybe relatively simple to do. I need an EA topic to be able to pass my diploma. In my experience, those students who come along to me saying, I want to do business management, but I don't know what I want to do. Can you give me a question? Those students don't tend to do good EEs, right? Because they get no personal engagement in the actual topic. So for example, I could say, here's your question, to what extent can Disneyland Shanghai improve its customer service? I know there's lots and lots of information available on this subject. But the student, if they've got no interest in the topic, well, what's generally tends to happen is the EA they produce isn't very good and they've missed deadlines. And that's largely because they're not engaged in the topic. The EE journey is 4,000 words. It lasted for 1 year. It's the first sort of real experience for students of having to work on a large topic for which they've gotten a lot of independence, and a lot of students struggle, all right? Now, because I have to work with a student for 1 year, and this year I have 7 students entering year 13, that for me can become a very frustrating experience. All right? So hence why I have my friend Pennywise on the screen, because if I take off my glasses and I put a little red nose on and a little bit of makeup, shave my hair off and put the wig on, I think I could look like Pennywise. All right? So, for those of you who think business is an easy option, and you're going to get A's and B's, I'm afraid for the vast majority of you, that will not be the case. So, what we'll do is we'll try and identify what you need to do to be able to do a successful EE. Okay? That's what we start here. You must have a good research question. And a good research question generally, as I say, comes from within the student. What are they interested in? Last year I had 3 students investigate different aspects of the computing or gaming industry in China. The students maybe weren't the strongest students, but they were all very, very interested in their topic and they could write lots and lots on it, and they found lots of information on their topics. Alright? So they were fully engaged. Okay? Now, the topic you're doing doesn't necessarily have to be in the business management syllabus. Your supervisor should be able to tell you whether your idea is suitable or not. Alright? But you must be able to do lots and lots of research. Alright? And you can include theories which are not on the syllabus. It used to be that Porter's 5 courses was on the syllabus. It's no longer on the syllabus, but that could be used. Obviously, standard level students don't do the things which higher level students do, like the fishbone or loons course for change. They can obviously use those things. I have a student this year who's an economics student. Doesn't study business management, sadly. Alright? The research question is very important. If you have a bad research question, this will greatly affect the marks you get. And if you have a bad research question, you will not be able probably to get a grade B or a grade A. Alright? So you can't have hypothetical questions like if Apple started selling water, blah blah blah. It doesn't sell water. Alright? The answer should not be obvious. A couple of years ago, one of my students had a question, to what extent should Pepsi use social media in North America? That got marked down. And in retrospect, if the student had had that type of question 5 or 6 years ago, it probably would have been okay, because social media is still a relatively new thing. But when it was submitted 2 years ago, social media was firmly established. So I think the reason why it was marked down was because the answer was kind of obvious. Strangely enough, the following year, a Korean student had a question, to what extent should art museums in South Korea use social media? And I was a little bit concerned that that would also get marked down. But maybe because social media is done on a smaller scale with the art museums, and because it has a strategic impact on art museums, because it might take up lots and lots of money, which they don't have, maybe that was thought of as being a less obvious sort of answer, and that one was marked up from grade C to grade B. And you must be able to answer the question inside 4,000 words. So this type of question, what worldwide strategy should Apple use to sell the iPhone 8? That you couldn't do inside probably 4,000 words. It may take 12,000 words. So we wouldn't allow that type of question. Now, questions should be very, very narrowly focused, therefore, and ideally be forward-looking. Okay? They should not be backward-looking. So I've given you two examples here. This is an example of a question a student did last year which got a grade A. So to what extent can foreign healthcare companies learn from the successes and failures of GE Healthcare in China? So that's a good question because it's forward-looking. So the student is able to say, this is what GE did well, this is what they didn't do well, this is what can be learned, rather than saying, why was GE Healthcare successful in China? Because that's just saying, this is what they did. Okay? Now, one of the things we also do is, obviously throughout, I've been teaching business management now for 15 years, we have many examples of students who've got grade A's for their extended essays. So obviously we give those to students. And so although the criteria sometimes changes, nevertheless what tends to be a successful extended essay from say 12 years ago is still relevant today. And then you're not allowed to look at the same type of question from your IA. So if this was the EE question, you wouldn't be allowed this in your internal assessment. Alright, it's very important. That's something called double dipping. To get a grade A and the extended essay in business management, you can get away with just doing secondary research. You can do no primary research and you can get grade A. Okay? You must use a wide range of sources. If all one of my students does is use the Shanghai Daily, that's not a wide range of sources. So we make sure they're using lots and lots of different online newspapers and magazines. Alright? Ideally, have someone inside the organisation. The student who I just mentioned who did the GE Healthcare EE, they knew someone inside the organisation. Okay? I've students this year doing in the EE in Tesla, they have someone that they can speak to inside the organisation. Alright? Then use contemporary data. Generally speaking, if you're doing an EE, I think you shouldn't really be writing using information from 1999 or 2009. In economics, they have a very strict 5-year rule. That doesn't, strictly speaking, apply to business. All right? But nevertheless, I think it makes sense to use as much up-to-date information as possible. So I would have a loose sort of rule that, say, a student of mine submitting an EE 2018, they should really not be using information before 2013. All right? If they're doing, say, something about motivation techniques in Daniel Pink, well, maybe that is more appropriate to use older information. But if you're doing something about the gaming industry, you really should not have information from 2009 because that's just way, way out of date. Referencing. Right from the very first time I see the first 500 words of an EE, I want to see clear referencing. If it's not referenced, I will refuse to read it. One of the things students will say is, I will reference later. I will reference when I'm finished. And it doesn't work. So what I say to students, first 500 words, I want to see it referenced. Every year I pass the EE back to students because they have been referenced. Okay? This school uses the MLA referencing system. That's taught in school from year 7 onwards and is taught in the EE specialist class. Alright, so make sure you're referencing very, very clearly. Then, make sure you're using the marking criteria. That's what I use, and that's what the examiner eventually will use. So, the layout is worth 4 marks, and although that is criteria, that's what we'll start with. There are a lot of these marks, and you should be able to get just by following what the criteria says. Alright, I know it's like that with the internal assessments. Students will get lots and lots of marks just from following what it says. So, the layout is worth 4 marks. So you should have a title page, contents page, introduction, body of essays with headings and subheadings, a conclusion, references, bibliography. You must have page numbers, double spacing, point font, etc. Make sure you clearly label graphs, figure 1, figure 2, figure 3, figure 4. Make clear reference to the figures in figure 1, it says. And don't write more than 4,000 words. If you have more than 4,000 words, the examiner stops reading. Okay, the title page has the title of the essay, so it could be the lessons which can be learned by foreign multinationals from GE Healthcare China. Then the question, topic, business management. Alright, you don't put your name. Okay, all you do is put your candidate reference number, which your IB coordinator will give you. Alright, criteria A. This is mostly to do with the introduction. Worth up to 6 marks. Alright, ranges of sources which you think you're going to use. I ask my students in the year 12, at the start of the IB course, when they're doing the to try and come up with an action plan of the various dates. We have deadlines, kind of like every 6 weeks for 500 words, 1,000 words, 1,500 words, 2,000 words, etc. And for students to try and put as much information on what they think they will have done at each of those stages. So even if that action plan isn't included in the actual NDE, it gives the students some sort of framework to be working from. Alright, and sometimes I ask my students to put that into the appendices, but just make a little reference to it in the main body. Alright, now the main thing then is to move on to why is this extended essay worthy of study? Why are you interested in it? Okay, that then will hopefully mean that when you're writing the EA, if you keep coming back to this, the focus of your research is clear, and hopefully then it's maintained through the EA. Okay, now, as I say, the body of the EA, hopefully your business management teacher will have given you examples of EAs which get a grade A or a grade B, and maybe even the occasional one who's got a grade D, so you can see what a really bad EE is like. Alright, and you can use that, and in your meetings with your EE supervisor, they can guide you as to what you're supposed to include. Okay, but obviously what you need to be able to do is you need to show a clear understanding of the topic. You need to use business management terminology and tools, all the research you've done about the business, and statistics maybe you found, you include that. You have to maybe say what the business does well, what the business doesn't do well, and depending on the topic, you may well be saying, giving advice. This is what they could do better in the future, this is what they could do worse, this is what should be prioritised in short term, long term, and these might be the supposed costs involved. Okay, and if you are putting information in the appendices, make clear reference to that information, because otherwise the examiner isn't paid to read information in the appendices. Okay, if you have an inappropriate research question, the total number of marks you can get from the criteria B and C is 7, and that criteria is B and C is marked out of 18. So if you've lost 11 marks here, obviously you're not going to be getting the grade A. Now, the various tools which may be easier for you to use and not easy to use. Alright, I've covered some of this elsewhere, and like I personally find the students don't do this use of staple very well. They find lots of information, it's not relevant to the EA, and then they don't make any reference to it under like the nice little staple table. And the examiner goes, hey, we got a staple, but it's irrelevant, and they don't make any extra use of it. Obviously, the decision tree and grade E, you need to get actual figures. If you're making stuff up, it's meaningless. Okay, so it's easier for students to use a SWOT analysis, product positioning maps. Product positioning maps, it helps if you have someone inside the organisation, because then if you come up with a criteria, then the person can fill in the bits on the product positioning map. Alright, the same with arguably the SWOT. The person say, hey, this is what we do well, this is maybe what we don't do well. Fishbone obviously summarizes problems. Anzoff matrix and the Boston matrix can be used very, very simply and over a relatively short number of words. The Lewis force field for change obviously is looking into the future as to what the business can do. If you're using Lewis, clearly justify the information in Lewis in a supporting paragraph. Right? The conclusion is obviously based on the information in the main body. You don't put new information into the conclusion. Year upon year, I have students put new information into the conclusion. Don't do that. And obviously you need to answer the question at the end. Okay? And then we move on to criteria A, which has to do with these reflection interviews. Alright, this is new to the EE. I have to be honest, I don't like it. But the IB people say we have to do it. Alright, so the reflection interviews take place during the process. So the types of things we may be looking at, say at the start, is why are you interested in this? What's your knowledge of the topic? How are you going to approach the EE? And you record all this down. The school uses Manage Back to record where students put their reflections. Then we have interim interviews with the student and at the end of the process. Okay, and again you record how successful you think the process has been. Maybe your original hypothesis has changed. Okay, what setbacks did you have to overcome, etc., etc. And that's worth up to 6 marks. So that could have a big bearing on whether you do get a grade A or grade B. Now, then this is kind of like a tick sheet. You probably can't read this very, very clearly, but nevertheless, for my internal assessments for higher and standard level, quite often I have just worked from a little tick sheet that, and what I'll just do, okay, is it a narrow focus, is the topic communicated clearly, is it formed as a question, and I just go down tick, 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 tick. So it just makes things easier for me. Obviously I give lots and lots of feedback to the students. I will meet with them when they submit work, and I will send them an email of where I've typed up what we talked about so people don't forget. So, to summarise, choose the topic which interests you. If it doesn't interest you, your EE is likely not to be very, very good. Read other EEs which have gotten A grade or B grade. Alright? Make sure you meet the deadlines and use your time between deadlines constructively. Quite often, students wait until one day before the deadline before they start writing anything. If you do that, then obviously what's going to happen is you're going to produce rubbish. Quite often, I meet students in June, and then students go away on their summer holidays, and I say to them, this is what I want you to have done during the summer holidays. Send me your EE, I say August 10th. Okay? Quite often students are not sending me their EE August 10th because they've done nothing on the EE during the summer. They spent 8 weeks doing nothing. And then when they come back, they find internal assessments for other subjects come along, and the EE again falls down with their priorities. So use your time during the summer constructively. Alright? Read about the topic. Right? This is based around secondary research. You must do lots and lots of research on the topic by yourself. When you're year 10, year 11, you're probably spoon-fed by your teachers. Okay? You may well do an IGCSE business, you may do like presentations in small groups where you're used to someone in the group doing most of the work, and you just sort of showboat alongside them when they're doing the presentation, and you get the A grade as well. That doesn't happen with the EE. You must go and do the research yourself. If you don't, you're going to get a bad grade, and you have to wear that bad grade. Alright? Make sure you reference clearly. Make sure you're using the correct layout. And finally, please do not plagiarize. I have never had a student plagiarize. That's because obviously I'm reading it as they're going along. Obviously, we put everything through Turnitin. So, if you do plagiarize, as some people in this school have done, then it's going to mess up your future, and you don't want that. Alright, and we'll finish, I think, with going back to our good friend Pennywise. Alright, so make sure you're choosing the business management extended essay for the right reasons, because you're genuinely interested in it, because you want to go to university and study business, not because the other subjects didn't want you, or not because you think business will be the easy option. I can tell you from experience, the vast majority of my students do not get grade A's or grade B's, they tend to get grade C's. So if you're wanting to get the big A or big B, make sure you're choosing an extended essay topic which you're really, really interested in and may add value to your own future. That's all. Be good.